Oh, live streaming, got it. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Worldscope Mundane Astrology Discussion. Once a month, the world astrologer will meet each other here and talking about the current transit and current event. Today is so big. I mean, the big event and the really big time. We have so many things happen. You know, in Portugal, I heard about just like a called a snap election. In
Oh,
Spain,
yeah.
in
Yeah.
Spain,
Corruption. You know about that?
yeah,
Corruption?
yeah, and in Spain we have the Sanchez just secure his position for another 4 5 years. I don't know, or maybe just another 4 5 months. I don't know.
But
And
it,
then in Argentina we have a election. Malia is not here today. Well, but the all eyes are on the Israel and the Palestine. So I think someone forecast that today our discussion will last for 2 hours, but Anna say no, I have to leave in 1 hour's time. So and also it's quite late for Liz too. And let's welcome Liz, our first time join us, panelist Liz from Amsterdam, right?
yeah.
Oh, thank God, because I didn't say some other city. Yes. So, well, Liz is a very well-known mundane astrologer, and Liz actually say, "Can I join you for discussion?" I said, "Of course, not." Yes, and we also have rubbing. Haven't seen rubbing for ages, but we're going to talk about lunation. Definitely need the rubbing's help. Okay, so today I know we have so many things to talk. So, but I will start it from the a interesting event happen. It's around the full moon time, right? It's around kind of 2 weeks ago, and in Nepal, a earthquake, and that was kind of a pretty huge in that area. And also, we have Anna is a specialist that study the earthquake. I will say from next year, we will start it have like a monthly course, and we will have a one track. It's always on mundane astrology. One track always on mundane astrology. So I think Anna will bring us a detail about how to forecasting of let's say prediction about how to study earthquake with astrology. But I will hand it to Anna now. But I will remind other guests. Let me know if you have slides to share, so I will set you as a co-host. Okay, thank you. All right, Anna, it's on you now.
Okay. Thank you. So let me share. Let me know if you.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So this time the earthquake was hello everybody. Hello first everybody. Hello everybody. Yes. And this time the earthquake was for Nepal. So here is the chart of Nepal. Without going deeper in the chart, just to highlight this storm in the 9th house, and Pluto and the moon here in the 12th house. So this is the chart. But let's see how it works with the events. This is the Aries ingress of Nepal of this year. We can see here the Pluto is very close to the ascendant and Uranus very close to the IC. There are other factors such as Sun and Neptune in opposition to Saturn. Pluto is conjoining the north of the Nepal's chart, and Venus conjoins the Uranus in the natal chart of Nepal, and Chiron with the moon. But there are some connections. There is a T-square also between this opposition and the moon. So here it is, the main important things to highlight is this Pluto in the ascendant and Uranus in the 4th house. Then we can check the previous solar eclipse before the event, and we can see again that when the solar chart is erected for Nepal, we can see the Pluto again in the descendant, and the degree of the eclipse is very close to the IC. And this is close to this Venus of Nepal, or related with resources and more things, more connections here. And the full moon previous to that event we can see here that well, the opposition Moon and Sun was very close to the third ninth house, cusp of ninth house, and Uranus of Nepal was in contact with the degree of the eclipse. And of course, this connection continues. No? The Pluto in contact with the north node of Nepal's chart. And the moment of the event, we can see here that there were two positions: the Sun, the position with Jupiter, and Mercury with Uranus. And we can see here the connection again. Well, the Moon at that time was square in the nodes, and the South node was in contact with Venus of the chart of Nepal. And the connection and the contact was in the same degree, 28 degree, Pluto and the North Node. Okay. Here it is. Thank you.
Did you compare this with the other Nepal earthquake a few years ago that was absolutely devastating?
No, I couldn't see it this time. What caught my attention is that this earthquake was 5 degree of magnitude, which is not so intense.
Yeah.
The Nepal one was a very, I think it was a higher magnitude. But in this time, I think that the city, which was close to Nepal, has a very poor condition of buildings. So I think that the magnitude of the earthquake impacted more. It was 500 kilometers from Nepal, from Kathmandu. And the one in Kathmandu, I think, was stronger, and I think they're still recovering from that.
Yeah.
From that time.
Yeah. I think I did something. It was ages ago, but I did something on it. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, great. It was in 2015. 2015, I think it was there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it called my attention that this earthquake was 5 degree magnitude. I don't know. When I experienced a tremor here of 5 degrees, I just let it pass and I don't move from my seat. But I think that the condition of the city, or who knows, is quite different and impacted a lot of people.
Well, thank you.
Thanks to you. But it also called my attention that when I did the one presentation of the earthquake in Afghanistan, it happens the same. The Pluto and the Uranus very close to the ascendant and the IC respectively.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So here it is.
We cannot hear you, Rod.
Rod.
No wonder.
Oh, yes.
I mute myself. I 100%. Why nobody listen to me? Anyway, so I 100% agree with Anna, because that I check a few earthquake charts. I'm from Taiwan, and we usually, like Anna, we experience nearly every week or every 2 weeks or every month there will be an earthquake experience. And the huge one, somewhat is not devastated. Well, but the small one, with the building somehow could be cause a lot of damage, and usually you will see the heavy outer planet transit in the area, and that was quite interesting. So I'm really looking forward to hear Anna's talk about the earthquake next year. I think it's in February in my plan. I will announce this plan. Yeah, I will announce this plan in the December program. Well, so I say today we are going to focus on Nando.
Yeah, I'm starting to pay attention also with, earthquakes, but I have to look into other things. The importance of the transiting nodes, not just, the nodes and eclipses when they are touched and, alongside new moon, full moon, but it seems like the transiting nodes has something to do. They have contact with positions in wars and earthquakes, so I will start looking more into that, because it's not a body, right? It's a invisible math point, but it works like something very interesting. The nodes in transit.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I was well, well. I like the story about in Harry Potter. Their clock is not about the point to the numbers. Their clock is point to dangerous or safe at home. So I do feel like the nodal axis are like those needles pointing to like this is Aries time, this is Pluto time, this is Mars time, and that is like how I see the node. Well, so are we ready for
one comment?
Yeah,
which I find is quite interesting as well, is that recently that area, the Middle East there, whether it be Afghanistan or Iran, has been where quakes have been taking place. And it seems to me like there is something going on there, which is manifesting on a different level at the moment, in Israel and Palestine. It's almost like tectonic plates shifting there. So inside the earth, but also on the surface of the earth in events that are happening there. It's almost like there's a sort of focus on that region. In a way, it's like as above, so below. Why shouldn't the earth be participating? And we are living on the surface of it, right?
Yeah, definitely agree with you. Well, so where should we start? Because this is a very, very big subject about. I don't want to start it from 1948. Should we start from the 7th of October because this is where all the recent things all started, and I'm really welcome everyone. If you have slides prepared, let me know. So I will set you a co-host. I have already set Lianne because I know Lianne, and I have the chart from for the other place. But let me know if you need setup. And also, Luiza, you want to talk about the slides you prepared, right?
Oh well, that's if we go to a discussion. What will be next?
Okay.
The 2 slides I prepared are about the attempt of doing a 2-state solution.
Okay.
Which when you look at the charts, you will say, "Oh my God, why don't they have a court astrologer?" Because they couldn't have picked the worst time to do the Oslo Accords.
Yeah,
that was the ones with Clinton. And then the roadmap for peace that was with a young Bush.
Sure.
And they were horrible. But that's if the discussion leads us to what is next.
Yeah.
And that proves that the 2-state solution is no solution.
Okay. So, well, then I will share, but everyone will have their own chart because we find out there's different chart. We work for Hamas. So feel free to use your chart. Okay. So now the first, I will share with this chart that this is the beginning. This is the beginning point. And then we will bring here and anyone can feel free to join. Let me share my screen. Well, this is what again I think is I probably get it from the Wikipedia. So it's about the 6:30, but if I think some people use 6 o'clock because there would be the Mercury conjunct the ascendant around that 6 o'clock time. So I use the 6:30, but feel free to just bear in mind I use different chart. Okay, so I think this is a very interesting chart because when we looked at the Mars was so close to the South Node, and the South Node in the astrology, no matter in the mundane or in the personal one, is always something historical, something related to past, something related to past. And we have the moon is just about to, going to opposite that Pluto. But I know everyone who study this event will tell you how tricky that Pluto could be. So any comment who want to start it?
On the attack, on this actual event?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously for a start, as you pointed out, Rod, you've got the axis of war and peace there between, Aries and Libra. And actually as well, the problems have been going on there since the eclipse season started in the spring and before. The nodal return of Israel, for example, which was taking place when this right-wing Netanyahu government came into power. The writing was on the wall, really, you know, because that was very much promoting a right-wing agenda of building and settlements on the West Bank, etc. So I think there was a bit of a backstory here, which started with Israel's nodal return. And, you know, the swearing in of the Netanyahu government at that time. And yeah, already if you look at the spring, for example, the spring eclipses, already we were seeing, you know, huge demonstrations in Tel Aviv. You know, all of these women dressed in, you know, the Handmaid's Tales outfits, you know, in protest against the judicial changes that were coming into effect there. So there's been a build-up, and this is like a typical Pluto fourth house eruption, isn't it? Because that's what Pluto does. I mean, it's going to, you know, throw everything into the air. What isn't working, isn't working. Pluto was moving into, you know, has moved into Aquarius. And if you're using the Scorpio chart, which you've put up here now, you know, it's already squared that, you know, early Scorpio chart for Israel. And yeah, I mean, to put it bluntly, it's shit hit the fan time, isn't it? And it carries on. If you look at what Pluto is going to be carrying on doing in the years to come, it does not look a pretty sight, does it? And I would add to that this, because, you know, I work a lot with the Pluto discovery chart. And I mean, the moon here in Israel's horoscope is slap bang on Pluto discovery ascendant. Pluto's going to be going over its own descendant. I did a talk on that for the CIA, which you can still purchase. It's called Crossing the Rubicon. I did that over a year ago. So it's a really tense moment, I think, in world history, and that there's earthquakes and all sorts going on in the region does not surprise me one iota, to be honest. So that's just some loose thoughts throwing in, and guess what other people think, obviously.
Yeah. I have to make a thank you, Liz, because it is very interesting when you mentioned about the eclipse chart. That Pluto, because if we only look at the Pluto chart, you will notice that not Pluto chart, the eclipse chart. That Pluto is right on MC. Pluto is right on MC, and in this chart, well, I use the Gaza, but I think for Jerusalem and Tel Aviv would be very similar position, I think.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is why, you know, I mean, I was looking at Israel. I mean, I contacted Myra Epstein long before this problem, asking for a paper that she wrote on Israel for the NCGR years ago. I mean, I was looking at Israel already when Netanyahu's government got sworn in, because the writing was there. You could see, you know, that nodal return. And yeah, the whole, what you've just said as well, the MC, the Pluto coming into the position it's coming into. And it's a really dangerous moment, I think, for all of us, not just for the region, because we have, you know, I mean, the diaspora now of Arabic people throughout Europe is huge, you know. So this is, I think, a really fraught moment for all of us in a way, and a dangerous moment for all of us, not just in Israel, Palestine, but I think across Europe and other places, America as well.
Yep, I agree.
I totally agree, Liz. And, you know, when we look at Pluto going into Aquarius, it can so often result in fractures in society, fractures in nations, fractures in countries. We just have to look back to previous times when Pluto was in Aquarius. We can go back to the Holy Roman Empire, that far back. We're looking at fractures. And even in the UK, you know, our government, our parties are becoming fractured over this. Look at the Labour Party. Everyone's divided over a ceasefire. We're seeing fractures in every level of society. And I'm going to be watching the news this weekend in the UK, because obviously we have the remembrance services. We've got Armistice Day on Saturday, and there's all the fractures between the government and the police now about banning protests. It's so Pluto and Aquarius. And I know Pluto's sort of moved back into the late degrees of Capricorn, but we see overlaps, you know, when a planet's at the end of a sign, we can use orbs, and we're pulling in Aquarius energy. We're seeing it, fractures everywhere. And this threatens to fracture on a global level, without a doubt. And we're seeing it. We're just seeing the very beginning. So I totally agree. Yeah,
it's kind of quite scary.
Lianne and I have talked a lot about what has to be cleaned up in these last degrees of Capricorn, Pluto in Capricorn. And I know it's in a totally different scale relative to the Middle East, but our government in Portugal was found, actually accused. The prime minister had to resign, foreign minister in jail, at least for the time being. And Pluto was again on the same degree. This is a new government, a government that was reinstated in March 2022. So it's a year and a half old. And Pluto is exactly on the same degree. Meanwhile, back and forth, boom, exactly on the same degree. It kind of saying, you thought you could get away with this corruption. No. Because Pluto, at many levels of understanding, what's integrity. It wants integrity. Get that integrity. You need to blow up a few things, and it blew up.
I always think of Pluto, you know, it's like, you know, like total destruction, and then you're picking through the ruins to see what you can use, what's left, you know, and anything that you can pick up that's left is strong enough to have survived, you know, the devastation. So it's the essence of what remains. It's what comes after is very much Pluto in Aquarius, I think. And it's a big moment because Israel has always sought support outside of the region. And it has to be really Aquarian now, I think, in a way, and start to reach out to its neighbours and start building relationships in the region, and not keep looking, you know, as it's always done historically through the diaspora. It always had to look, where is the power, you know, and create relationships with that power to be able to stay in Spain or Portugal or wherever it was. It was always making those kind of relationships. And that's a similar relationship it has now with the US. It has all these foreign support, but in its neighborhood, with its direct neighbors, it hasn't got those, you know, cross-border, you know, friendship things really at all. And that's...
I think apparently it was just a recent year starting to build up, you know, a kind of a relationship between Israel with, you know, with Arabian country, like with Egypt or with, you know, with Saudi Arabia. They kind of trying to build up some relationship, and now it's kind of this effort is testing. I don't want to say it's going to fail or not, but it's testing, and that is a very interesting, as Liz mentioned about the nodal return, because nodal is connection. Nodal actually is connection. Well, I'm curious about Lianne. Lianne, I heard about you have prepared a few charts. You want to?
Yeah.
Okay. So should I pass it to you?
Yeah, that would be great. Sorry, I'm on two screens. Let me just pull off the other screen. Slideshow beginning. Can everyone see that?
No.
No. Okay. I haven't shared.
No.
Hang on. Share screen. Here we go.
Yeah, this is looking good.
Okay, let me just move that.
No.
Make that bigger from beginning. There we go. Can everyone see that now?
Yes.
Yeah, good to go. Okay. So like everyone, I've had a gazillion charts up. I've been here, there, and everywhere. My brain has scrambled with the number of charts. So I just came back to what I started with originally, which is the 1948 Israel chart, and then I started with the Hamas attack. All right. Which was on the 7th of October. Let me just get rid of that. So what have we have here? So I thought this was really interesting. We had Venus at the time of that Hamas attack sort of pull up and conjoin the Israel-Mars along with Juno. Juno's always full of fire and is usually quite a benefit but I think in its shadow form, it does go on the attack, and it's incredibly protective about its homeland. So when you get Juno and Venus together on the defensive, this is what we were seeing, I think, from Hamas, and an attack of passion as well, I think, without a doubt. I don't want to get too much into the attack itself. We know all the details, don't we? And then we've got, you know, some classic signatures, don't we? You know, Uranus is on the Israel sun. And I think as well that sort of triggered that impulsive reaction from the leadership there. We've got Jupiter on the North Node there, and of course that South Node on the, North Node on the Aries descendant. So it's classic for attack and defense, that type of thing. But what I found really fascinating was, because obviously I work with dwarf planets a lot, we had Mars building towards a conjunction with Haumea in Scorpio, all right? And we can see Haumea there is, you know, within 4 degrees of that Israel moon there, forming a fixed square. Then the week after, or a few days after, it was on the way down to the AA conference, actually, on the 12th, we had Mars actually conjoin Haumea at 0 degrees of Scorpio. And what we saw in Israel from then and what we're seeing now is just the absolute worst of the most shadow of Scorpio. It's death and destruction and revenge. There was, you know, just so much revenge and attack and death and destruction. And when we're looking at Haumea, the dwarf planet, obviously she's the mother goddess of Hawaii. Think of volcanoes and everything, all that pressure that's bubbling underneath the ground, ready to erupt. Okay, and it's like what you were saying, Liz, about everything, those tectonic plates under the ground, all that pressure under the ground, waiting to erupt. And I think this is where Haumea is coming in, because Haumea and Pluto are in a long-term square for the rest of this decade. Okay, when Pluto moves back to that 0 degrees of Aquarius, it will exact the square with Haumea, and they will stay in a square through to 6 degrees of the fixed signs throughout this decade. And that square is going to be triggered over and over and over. Okay, back to this Mars Haumea conjunction at 0 Scorpio. That's the first time that happened since 1745 in Scorpio. All right. And in the 1700s, we saw stuff like the 7 Years' War, and then we went on to see the, you know, American Revolution, all those sorts of things. All right. So that Mars Haumea square may seem insignificant, but it's actually really big. And that conjunction, Mars Haumea conjunction Scorpio, that's going to repeat several more times in Scorpio. And it is just just the worst shadow sign of fighting for land, for possession, and killing for it. And that's what we're seeing, essentially, isn't it? All right. And then if we go back to the 1950s, the late 1940s, when this began, that's when the Arab-Israeli conflict began, really, in 1948. We were building to a Pluto-Haumea conjunction in Leo. All right. Throughout the entire 1950s, that Leo conjunction was in orb. All right. And just before that 1948 start of the Arab-Israeli conflict, we had Mars and Haumea making a series of conjunctions in Leo, right? And, you know, these were all triggering the degrees sort of, you know, between 24, 25, 26 Leo. And we're kind of seeing a square to Israel's Leo stellium, you know? So we're seeing a resurgence and a sort of, not echo, but we're just seeing the next stage of this Arab-Israeli conflict, without a doubt. And it's just like, this doesn't happen overnight, does it? You know, the pressure's been building and building and building. As with any war, it builds for months and years beforehand. And that's where I think Haumea is coming in. If you think of that volcano bubbling up and then it erupts in, you know, this death and destruction, without a doubt. And, you know, just picture a volcanic event, all right? You know, we see sort of the fire coming down the mountain. It flows down, it kills whatever it's in its path, and the land is completely laid to waste. And if we look at Gaza now in the news, it's just laid to waste, isn't it? It's just completely destroyed. Eventually, after a long time, though, you know, new land is formed from volcanic eruptions, but not before there's been an awful lot of death and destruction. So this is going to go on for a long time. We know it's not going to end in the near future at all. But I just wanted to kind of show where it's erupted from, perhaps, and the backdrop to that. Okay. And I just wanted to quickly, I've just got 2 more slides. I won't be too long because I know there's other people who want to speak as well. But I've got the Sibley chart, the US chart. Yeah. And this is the full moon for the 27th of November. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, but this full moon, when that's relocated for Israel, is on the midheaven for Israel, just like this new moon coming up Mars is on the midheaven for Israel. But look, it picks up the US Haumea there, okay, in the 12th house. And I do wonder if we're going to get to that full moon at the end of November and there's going to be some international intervention, whether it's legal intervention or warfare intervention, military intervention. I'm not sure, but I do think the US is going to be involved more, but it's in the US 12th house. So I wonder if it's going to be intervention that we're maybe not so aware of.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please, Liz, jump in.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Venus there, you know, in Libra, which is quite close to that 10th house Saturn.
Yeah,
and Venus, angular Venus, quite often you will see it relates to peace deals, peace settlements.
Yeah.
And I think the point is with the US, it's coming into an election year. And it's a huge election year. And I do not think
as well.
And well, I just don't think the US will want to get kind of too bogged down in the Middle East. You know, it needs to focus on what's going on back
domestically.
Domestically, exactly. So I'm wondering about that Venus when it comes up to Saturn there, which will probably be, you know, maybe a week before this chart, the full moon. You know, what that's going to bring about, you know. I mean, I think we'll probably see a crescendo of violence, you know, around a new moon, maybe the build up to the new moon. We're not done with this sort of purging or whatever you want to call it yet. But
no, absolutely not.
And it's not finished either, I've got to say. I agree with you. It's not finished. I mean, it can be, this is, you can't just stick a plaster on this. The rage in the region is going to be, you know what I mean? That's not a rage you can just put away, you know.
It comes from the depths of the earth. It's so plutonic and scorpionic. It's intense, rage, emotion, and it's pain. There's so much pain there as well, isn't it? Anyway, sorry,
Luiza.
Yeah, there is a British writer who happens to be Jewish and called Montefiore, who wrote a book about Jerusalem, like if Jerusalem was a person, the biography of Jerusalem. It was so bloody, I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
Because it's so bloody. And Lianne, I really like you looking at a Hawaiian goddess, the volcano, because this is what it feels. You know, regardless of what was before, in 1948, it was decided, let's not, by the Brits or whoever, that the land would be 55 for Israel, 45 for Palestine. It's nowadays 76-24.
Yeah.
So it feels like, you know, the closing of the volcano. It's squeezing until it has to erupt. This is no way that I agree with what Hamas did, but there is a squeezing.
Mhm.
I don't think
Fresh.
anyone agrees with what
Yeah.
Hamas did. I totally understand that point as well.
But you have to emphasize. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there is a squeeze,
Oh.
you know, going 45-55
Mm.
to 24-76.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
These are numbers.
yeah.
I'm not
Yes.
talking about death. I'm talking about numbers, square
Yeah.
kilometers.
And the other thing is that the next conjunction Jupiter-Uranus
Mhm.
will square the Mars of Israel.
And
It's on the sun, huh?
It's on
It's
the sun.
conjunct
On the
sun.
sun, of course.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is like we'll be shaking again by that time.
Yeah. Oh, it could be a turning point. It could
Yeah,
be
could
a
be a
huge
break
turning
point.
point
Yeah.
and a reboot. It's unpredictable when Uranus is involved. Uranus and
Mhm.
Jupiter could go either way, couldn't it? So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of water to flow under the bridge,
Yeah.
isn't there?
No, I
So-
think that's a good point, though, because with Pluto opposite the moon as well, I mean, an opposition is the maximum distance you can take from each other.
yeah,
So there might be indeed a sort of like, you know, a sort of separation policy, a dividing up policy, a breaking up. And that I think would be the most positive expression of that opposition, you know, to bring about a sort of real break, you know, in the peoples, you know, you go your way, we go ours. But it has to be, you know, the problem will be the security of Israel, because that will always come first, you know. And you know, there are some light points. I agree. Jupiter Uranus on the sun could bring something good. Pluto opposite the moon, if it could find a positive expression, each party going their own way, dividing up the land, that would be good. But there is a high risk component in there, I think.
yeah.
Lianne, do you want to explain about this one? Hamas look pretty interesting,
Yeah,
especially that Mars Pluto. Wow.
Oh, I
And with the
know.
south
I mean,
node and
yeah, this is the synergy between Hamas and Israel. It's quite obvious and blunt, isn't it? You know, we've got that
What
Scorpio.
can we expect?
Oh,
That Scorpio Taurus.
Don't think Liz was in the discussion when I came up with this chart for Hamas.
Yeah.
And it was through historical records that I found that it was the first time that the name Hamas showed up. It was a communique. It was a communique in this precise date.
Okay.
And that was the first time the word Hamas showed up historically.
Yeah, it was the result of the Intifada, wasn't it? The first Intifada, which brought it about. But it's that Saturn-Uranus conjunction, isn't it?
But
in
it
Sag,
was they signed like this communique, making it official, so to speak.
Is that 1987?
And what happens is that if you progress this chart, the Hamas chart for the 14th of December, if you progress it, it's now Sun-Moon conjunct in the 28th degree of Capricorn.
Oh, wow.
With Pluto. With Pluto.
It's a noon chart, though, so we can't really take the moon into account. But the sun,
we can't. You can't. But if it's not together, precisely full moon, it will be, you know.
It's right there with Pluto. That's interesting.
Anyway, the sun will be at 28.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
The progressed sun will be at 28.
Which
Capricorn.
is really interesting.
So it's one more of these things, Lianne, that Pluto has to do.
Absolutely. And I always said Pluto's saving the best to last. So we've still got another year or so to go, don't we?
Yeah. But at least this, you know.
But what I wanted to do very quickly here is just have a look at the eclipses for next year. Okay. Because we could look at so many transits and progressions, etc. We need to, but I just wanted to look at the eclipses. So this is the new moon that we've got coming up next week on the 13th. which of course we know, and when that's relocated to Israel, it's right up on the midheaven conjunct Mars. If we've got the astro map to look at later, perhaps.
Yes, yeah, we do.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Okay,
that's not the new moon chart there, though. We're still looking at. Oh, I can see. Sorry, yeah.
I've just sort of I've just highlighted where it will these lunations will hit. Okay, then we move to March next year. I hope I've got these correct because I did them really quickly before.
Yes, that's great. Yes,
yes, we'll have a lunar eclipse.
Definitely.
At 5 Libra in March, which is picking up that Hamas moon. It's close enough. I found that really interesting. That solar eclipse in April on Hamas Jupiter. Okay, and it's picking up that Israel descendant, really, isn't it? So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting time. Very Aries, very Aries.
But that new moon conjunct Mars, if you take that back to the actual Sun-Mars conjunction, which is on the 18th, which is just before is it the new moon chart? No, it'll be the full moon chart. Yeah, but that Sun-Mars conjunction on the 18th November is conjunct Pluto. The moon is conjunct Pluto. And opposite Uranus, exactly, plus min.
Right.
So that I think with Venus at 10:50 Libra, that might be a kind of a crescendo / turning point right now. Around
I think so. I think without a doubt, it could be a breakthrough or a complete explosion, one of the two. And the one thing about that new moon chart that I keep a little bit of hope in is there's a trine to Neptune, and I just hope that disperses some of that volatility from that new moon and that Uranus opposition. Maybe I'm just living in hope, but anyway, there we have it. And then we can jump ahead to September next year, and we have a lunar eclipse at 25 Pisces. We've got the Hamas chart. We don't know how accurate the descendant is, do we, really, for that Hamas chart? But it's close to the North Node for Hamas. It's in Pisces. Pisces surely has to be hope for some sort of peace or resolution. And this is what I liked as well. Around the same time, the solar eclipse there falls on Israel's Neptune. And I just thought, do you know what? That looks like some form of resolution or peace to me. I mean, we're looking to sort of October 2024 there. But
that's right in the middle of the US election season. So if you look at the September one there, that's exactly Uranus in this chart for Israel is 24 plus Gemini, and it's conjunct Mars in the US chart.
Yeah, exactly.
So that eclipse there is square Mars in the 7th house in the US Sibley chart, and it's conjunct Uranus there. So, wow, it's going to be, because Trump is going to be back in the picture by the look of it. I mean, this could be insane, actually, that eclipse there on the 18th of September. Because that's like weeks coming up, a month and a half before the election, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just thought I'd sort of put a bigger picture up there for the year ahead. And obviously we'll study all of this in much more detail as we go along.
Yeah, wow, thank you, Lianne, for everything.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything like everyone else.
But what can you say when you see this? When you see that picture that with two place charts, and we're picking up by all the important transits and eclipses, you just like it will not stop here. And even we expecting like we hope the peace or something. But it seems like it's just like you just open a Pandora's box.
Yeah.
And we can only keep hope inside that. Is anyone want to continue to make some comment according to this either? How much? Yes, please.
Just one comment in general, one thing that I think as well is really important, you just made me think of it with that Pisces eclipse, is that Saturn and Neptune are at the end of a cycle now. They as well are coming, they're both in Pisces. It's rare for them to be together in Pisces. I think the last time was in the 1840s or something, that they were both in Pisces. So that as well, brings up all those themes of redemption, of suffering, of victimhood, of as well. It's almost like tying it, you know, everything sort of, it's the cosmic soup, isn't it, Pisces? It's where all of the karmic issues come together, and it's all building up to the conjunction in Aries. So I think next year with that eclipse in Pisces, I can't remember, was it 20 Pisces or something in September? That's really going to be picking up Saturn and Neptune as well, because Saturn will have moved forward to around that area, I would imagine, by then. We're going to get a big dose coming into the end of that cycle, which started with the breakup of the Soviet Union, you know, China, Tiananmen Square. You know, there was a lot of big, you know, big issues going on then as well. So
definitely.
We're coming to the end of something, I think, and it's a big, this conjunction on the Aries point is going to be massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
I mean, the position of the U.S., the position of the U.S. relative to Israel is going to be key on all this. And Liz has a point. I mean, they have to deal with their own troubles when the election starts for real. Apparently, the Democrats did a little better than expected in this last one, but then the senator from West Virginia is not going to go. It's not standing again, so that could diminish their chances in the Senate.
Yeah.
And Israel, of course, has the right to exist, but exists in this shape and form because the U.S. is their ally and supplies them with all kinds of weapons. Otherwise, it wouldn't be. They wouldn't
viable.
They wouldn't be viable. So they've stayed stuck in this solution of activating. And if you don't mind, show them the first accords, and you'll see what was the impossibility of coming together. I sent you, I think, the Oslo Accords.
I have here.
So the first.
I'm going to show it.
Yeah.
After much fighting and much intervention from the United States, they did this called the Oslo Accords. Actually, it's Yitzhak Rabin who is shaking the hand of the Arab leader, and he was killed because of the signing of this.
Yeah.
Actually, later I started finding out exactly the time, and I did found exactly the time. This is a noon chart, and it gets even worse because the exact time of signing, Pluto is on the midheaven. So just turn it a quarter of a turn, and you'll get it. Okay.
What time was that actually?
It was I found it in the papers. It was, let me see, I have to check later. I found the piece of news which I copied for the Oslo Accords. And then later, many years later, they tried to revive these accords and called the Roadmap for Peace. And that was signed in Aqaba, in Jordan, with the young Bush. But look at the division in this chart. On all of them. Again, it's unbelievably, this didn't work either, obviously, because we are where we are. And all these accords were made on the presumption they would be able to live in separate states, but they would be neighbors. And I think that we have to look for a solution that is more Aquarian, that is new. You have to live with your neighbors, whoever they are. Let's not say this is mine, this is yours. Let's try and live together, because going this route, you're never going to go anywhere.
I think it's hopeful that the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is picking up both the suns. The Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in April picks up both the suns of Israel and Hamas chart. And Charles Harvey always called that conjunction the thank the Lord conjunction. So perhaps when we have that, maybe that's it. When we have that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, maybe some sort of solution will be found, because the people in Israel basically want peace. And we have 2 young people staying with my granddaughter at the moment who escaped from Israel on the 8th of October because the building opposite them was blown up. And they're American, but have lived in Israel for 7 years. They're, Israeli born. And their father rang and said, just get the hell out of there. And they got on the last flight out of Israel. And I spent a lot of time talking to them, and they said they've had enormous protests, which we will not see in the mainstream media. Enormous protests. The people do not want war. They do not want the government that they have. They absolutely hate Netanyahu. They hate him with a vengeance. They blame everything on him.
I get the Haaretz, which is the left newspaper, the Israeli one, and I'm not picking up that at all. And this is a left-wing anti-Netanyahu newspaper. But at the moment, what I'm seeing, and I've got Israeli friends that live here. One of them, I've been to Israel, visited family there, kibbutz. But even from them, the message that I'm getting is one of complete outrage, anger. They're not ready, I don't think, to throw in the towel. I'm not picking up.
I am talking about 20-year-olds. I'm talking about the young generation. I'm not talking about the older people. I'm talking about the youth. Yeah. The youth, and the youth are our future.
I agree with you there, Robyn, and I find that really hopeful, because I think that is, it's also with climate, with everything, young people are looking for different solutions than
absolutely, and their their way of thinking is completely different. So I think that it's hopeful that in the future the solution will be found and that they'll live peacefully. But I think that the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is important.
Do you think it's not maybe too soon? Do you think if you
Who
were
knows?
a nation...
But maybe all I'm saying is perhaps it's a turning point.
I'm just thinking 11,000, 6,000 of which are children. Can you just, do you know what I mean? Within 5 or 6 months, forget that.
Yeah. On the other hand, you see, I watched something called UK Column News. I don't know if any of you watch that, but UK Column News, you can download everything that they've spoken about over the last few months. They're on 3 times a week. And their news is very unbiased, and it's completely different from mainstream media. It's completely different, and they have some really interesting people speaking from various different, and they've had some very interesting conversations about what's really going on in Israel, and a lot of it seems to be tied up with the financial system that the Americans have got themselves into, because they're in very severe financial straits. And I think that war is a way of making money.
It's the biggest business, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's massive.
Well, definitely. Very interesting when we mention about,
I understand
Luiza,
the younger generation, because they are, in fact, they have other planets. They have the generational planets in other signs. So they've moved on. They are more into the world. It's less me against you. It's more of us.
They were born, a lot of them, with the Capricorn, all of those planets that we've had moving through Capricorn.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you know, Capricorn is about scarcity, and what they are facing generationally is a shortage of houses and a shortage of this, a shortage of that. So they have had to look beyond the things that were like the norm for us, you know, buy a house, do that, you know, because for a lot of young people, that's, you know, the cake has already been divided. You know what I mean? They're the Capricorn generation who've got just a lot less, you know,
I think that nothing is going to happen before the last leadership with Leo Pluto exists. They don't want to let the power go. Pluto generation in Leo. So forget it.
And
we will die eventually.
Virgo generation
you
is
always dare to say something I wouldn't dare to say.
Pluto Virgo generation is ready to take over. They can't. Now, Scorpio Pluto generation, they want to take over and just jump over Pluto.
Obama was of that generation, and look what happened afterwards. Okay. So now we have.
It's a good point, though. I do agree. I think the Pluto and Leo,
we have younger leaders in Europe. We have Macron. We have all the Nordic, but they're not going anywhere.
But if Trump gets in, he doesn't believe in any wars. So, you know, let's see who's going to get into the
White House. Who's going to take the top job?
Okay.
I mean, it's a bizarre situation, really, isn't it? You've got Trump or Biden, you know.
Liz, I sent you the time through the chat.
I just took a picture of it. I saw it there. I just thank you very much, Luiza. I'm really interested to have that. Great, thank you. So, Rod.
The other one I couldn't find. The one that was signed in Aqaba couldn't find.
Okay. I really want to have a talk about Netanyahu's chart, because our audience also asked, have you guys checked Netanyahu's chart? Because yes, like Liz and I think quite a lot of our panelists mentioned, just before this thing started, Netanyahu was quite unpopular, like Robyn and Liz say. He was pretty unpopular, especially the justice reform inside Israel was have a huge protest against him. And then, so, I mean, our friend Terry is online with us, and then she will suggest, have you guys checked Netanyahu chart? I think I'm quite curious. Are we ready to have a quick look? Should we? Just have a very, very quick snapshot about Netanyahu's chart. I will have to say, this chart is getting from the astro.com, but the rate is C rate of a natal chart. I don't know what does that mean anyway, but so just bear in mind. So he was born in 21st August 1949 and 10:30 a.m. in Tel Aviv. And he got the 13 degree ascendant, a 13 degree Sagittarius ascendant, sun at 21 degree Libra. Hola. And then the moon, well, it's still red, but you still have the moon is pretty close to the sun. Yeah, moon is pretty close. Apparently, he kind of, probably. I think that sun square the Pluto, and you know, with the Jupiter.
And that solar eclipse, that solar eclipse in October, when all of this sparked off, you know, was pretty much picking up his moon, wasn't it? And nodal axes, that Libra solar eclipse.
Yeah.
He's under pressure.
They're under pressure.
I know.
It's quite interesting because Neptune would be opposite his midheaven if the chart is plus min accurate, and it's interesting because it's that Neptune there around his IC because Netanyahu's action, because he'd been out of power for a year and a half because of all the corruption charges against him, and then he came back in and was sworn in as Israel was having its nodal return, right? And his whole message has been security of Israel. And look at that Neptune on the IC there. So much for Israel's security on his watch, you know what I mean? that is a real breach there, isn't it? Neptune eroding borders. Do you know what I mean? Like dissolving the whole idea of it's all safe down here. Not really. I think that's quite says quite a bit for the timing of the chart. I think that Neptune is there on the IC because that's always been his big his big statement piece, is about keeping the country safe. But yeah, he's got a strange horoscope as well.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest we prepare to move to new moon, just to bring some hope. I hope. I don't know because this is the new moon chart in Gaza. Sorry, I have to show you this. And this is what Lianne just mentioned about the map. If you turn it into the astral map of this 13th of November, you will see, because we already see the chart, because the astral map indeed was just a chart. You got a sun conjunct the moon on the MC of this area, not only, Israel, Sudan, this is a hot spot. Well, and Ukraine and Turkey. And all these area,
and Uranus is on the sun moon midpoint of that new moon.
Okay, wow,
so I think what we're going to have
the ascendant.
Pluto on ascendant nearby. We get Pluto near this area, so especially everyone get involved. Oh, have you noticed about another news? I don't know, is that true or not? But that, I think, if no one noticed that, maybe we should pay a little bit attention. It's really it's about a missile has launched from Yemen, and they're going to attack Israel on the 31st of October. Was kind of stopped by the Israeli air defense system called Arrow Type 3. And then some newspaper, because I don't like a Daily Mail, so I really don't want to make sure. I'm really wondering their news is true, the Daily Mail. But the Daily Mail say, according to Daily Mail, this is the first space war in our history. So apparently this Arrow 3 is stop that missile outside the space.
Okay.
Rather than the inner there. So I tried to find the time. I couldn't find the time, but we know the date. It's the 31st of October. Just extra information and see, I don't know. I really don't know what we can see. But this is the chart up. Well, I think we probably should ignore the house. Let's talk about globally how this new moon, how could we expecting this new moon?
It's Venus. If you draw this new moon for Gaza, then Venus is in the 8th house in Libra, but it's trine the ascendant.
Indeed.
And it is sextile Mercury. So, and at the same time, Mars and the new moon are bracketing the midheaven there with Uranus on the IC. So that could be either, a sort of awakening or a sort of a lightning strike or something like that, or it could be, some kind of, Venus to Mercury, some kind of peace talk, some kind of like a serious ceasefire that some aid can get in. So I think always of Venus as wanting to bring something that soothes, that helps, that eases, that, I don't know, there's some kind of benevolent nature coming from Venus here, I find.
So we have on this chart 2 planets in rulership signs. Mars and Venus. I'd love not to have Mars in Scorpio.
Do you know Mars in Scorpio has got a bit of it does get a bit of bad press, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, I'm quite looking forward to it, and it's totally selfish, I have to say, because for the first time ever, that Mars-Sun conjunction, which could be a new cycle of violence or whatever. But in my case, it's conjunct my North Node, guys, in the first house. So, you know, I've got to sort of say I'm kind of
bias, a slight bias.
I'm
no boyfriends, no new boyfriends.
Oh, well, you never know, you know. could be, you never know. But it's, I think, don't you think Venus Mercury could bring something, and trine in the ascendant?
Yeah.
Harmonious.
And Saturn there as well.
But I have to say, Liz, I have to say, I had a bodyguard once that has Pluto conjunction Mars in Scorpio. It's a wonderful bodyguard. So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
let's give them credit.
Yeah.
And Pluto, Scorpio, Pluto, Mars people, and Virgo people like my father, they never lie. You can ask any question embarrassing. Either they silence, they mute, or they don't, or they tell you the hard truth. They don't lie. They say,
yeah,
I deserve that.
Yeah,
so
I agree. I agree. There's a brutal honesty there.
They make good surgeons.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Exactly.
Spies and detective as well. CSI.
Yeah.
I love them.
I'm looking at this Uranus deep on the IC, and that what reminded me of is that in Gaza City is full of tunnels. It's down. It's under. What are the surprises?
Yeah.
The underground.
Yeah. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Or evacuation by air.
Yes. I think this Sun, Moon, and the conjunct with Mars totally opposite the Uranus. I think one thing it reminds my friend Mandy is just online. Mandy mentioned about the you know, I'm not sure. I think people are divided everywhere in France, in case, you know, also in Brazil, or well, everywhere, to be honest. Yes, in Taiwan. I mean, people are all divided. I mean, I don't know. I think maybe people always be divided. We just didn't hear about it enough. That's it, you know. But that is an interesting opposition there. And any place around the world, I mean, I really want to go back to map again, have this, you know, around the angle. That would be an interesting place to, you know, to keep an eye on it, especially I think we already mentioned about all the hotspots from Turkey, Ukraine, and the Sudan, and then this area. I mean, that would be interesting. That just remind me another thing. I think do you want to hear a little bit about China, because something quite interesting happened in China at this moment. Well, Grace, are you still there, or you already go to bed? I mean, it's quite late. So okay, yes, exactly. I will prepare a chart for the a new moon chart for Beijing, and then let's look. Here we are. Grace, tell us what is happening right now in China, because I just heard about the Prime Minister just passed away.
Yes, it's
heart attack.
It's very hard and very how to say, sensitive.
Yes, sorry about it. I always put you in trouble. It's a very sensitive, so we have to know that you know.
We have to know that, so we have to. I mean, for me, I have to be careful.
We know
what I say. So I just talk about the chart, you know, from the new moon in Peking, in 6th house, and conjunct Mars, and opposite with Uranus, and then also new moon may contact with Jupiter. No, sorry, with Uranus, with Venus, and then also with Neptune. So all point to China maybe try to build a new imagine, and focus on public health, something like about the medical or the or hospital, something about the hospital. You know, from six house with 12 house.
Yeah, I'm sorry to drag you back to political again. Sorry, I'm just like I have to be very careful with Grace, not put her in prison. But also, I'm also curious because I just heard about the recently after 4 years that China and Australia haven't, any trade or any relationship or something. The first time Australia Prime Minister visit China, and also I think the United States Secretary of State also recently have something to do with China. So there is something, everyone understand one thing is the world peace also need China to contribute. But how China take this role at this moment?
In this moment, I think it's quite busy for how to say, rebuild relationship with the other country, with the West. It's something like, we also know Xi Jinping will visit America in this month.
Yes, that's why.
Yes,
he will have this
the time, the date is, I think is 15th. So just after the new moon.
Okay, 15th.
Just after the new moon.
Yeah.
So we can see
November.
the by view maybe more clear.
Well, that would be the sun really conjunct Mars. That?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 18th of November, Sun conjunct Mars.
Yeah, I really wish him have a good trip, really. Sun conjunct, visit United States while the Sun conjunct Mars. But I think, United States will look up him. But that is very interesting. During this very, very volatile and very, very stimulation time, he is going to visit the United States. I'm quite curious at China's position, because there's so many things and they just keep quiet. There is the conflict in Ukraine and Russia. They keep quiet, and there is this Israel and Palestine. Well, I think they're kind of in the first moment they were kind of support. They kind of support Palestinian people, and then but they still not say too much. They are just very quiet. But also quite interesting because I think I don't know you believe it or not. And Singaporean ex-prime minister talking about China, say they are very tamed. At this moment, they are not aggressive.
Because doesn't China have early Aquarius rising as well?
Indeed, yes. Let's look at the chart.
Yeah,
let's look at the chart. I have a chart here.
So that's going to be. I think you've got it up there, Rod. I can see it, number 23 on your screen there.
Yes. Wait a minute.
Is that not China down there?
It is China. But I was just like, oh yes, you're right. Okay, here we are. Sorry about that. I was just like trying to put chart together. That's it. Here we are.
See?
Look at this.
Yeah.
Yes.
So China could be a player now, couldn't it, in the years to come?
Definitely.
So yes, now we can see new moon in ninth house. Ninth house, something about the foreigner
diplomat.
Yeah. Yes.
And relationships with other countries as well, huh?
Yes.
Agreements.
And then the new moon conjunct China natal
Venus.
Yes, Venus.
Yeah.
So
good for business.
And the Venus in new moon Venus conjunct the Sun. 8th house in 8th house here.
Here, this one.
Yeah.
So
oh my God, very Venetian. I can't believe it.
So in this moment, I think China, or maybe also because of there is Uranus, so everything happened very suddenly. It's very quickly. And then I think China, for maybe 4 years or 5 years ago, something like I mean, how to say it, like fight wolf.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean. Well, what Grace trying to say is in Chinese, they China call themselves their attitude toward to foreign affair are kind of aggressive, and they call it a
Yes.
fighting war.
Fighting wolf.
And now,
Fighting wolf. And
so,
yeah. And in this moment, suddenly everything is changed. I read some newspaper from China. The Chinese newspaper said, nobody can break the relationship between China and American.
Wow.
Oh,
now they are good body. Now they are
something
good
like
body now.
If you do
that's
this,
big news.
Yeah, if you do this, you are evil.
But,
Oh my God.
I mean, so much action with Venus.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
and I don't think it's for China's best interest for these wars to continue. So there could be a behind the scenes, diplomatic moves. That would be a hope.
I have to state that what Luiza said, not Grace said, for great safety.
Yeah, not because they want peace. It's because it's not convenient economically
No, it's not
for them. Whereas for
Uh-huh.
other countries could be. But I don't think it's convenient economically for China.
Definitely. Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. Yeah, well, something is that worrying me, to be honest, is worrying me. But I think Grace probably not allowed to say was like the things I mentioned about the ex-prime minister and a lot of rumor. I think now it's coming down. There's a lot of rumor when he just passed away, and the people are really worried about because the last time in 1918 and 1989, when one of the ex-prime minister died, the people use the time of the vigilant and mourning, and they eventually start the gathering around, and eventually in Tiananmen Square, we know what happened that time. So they were really worried and kind of try to not allow people gathering around for this moment. So you can see that Mars Uranus, that tension on the MCIC area. That is pretty interesting. I mean, well, so I don't know. Anywhere else should we focus on? If any suggestion? Is there any suggestion should we focus on? Or, I mean, I'm quite surprised we are cover the new moon chart about it very quickly. But I'm curious, Robyn, a little bit of information about this new moon, about this Nulation family.
I think this new moon is setting off a whole new cycle, and it can go one way or the other. I mean, for instance, we're going to have this real clash in London, aren't we, with the Palestinian protest, along with the Remembrance Day. But the people in the British Legion and the armed forces, etc., because the government was trying to stop the protests, the Palestinian protests, and all the armed forces got together and said, no, they're entitled to protest. We don't want them to stop the protest. That the people have the right to. I feel like there's a shift going on, really. And although we might have to have quite turbulent periods of time, I do feel there is this shift. And I think the main shift is because of the new generation coming up who don't want war, and they're not interested in just making money. And it's kind of the last part of the Capricorn age, isn't it, really? It's like we are going into the Aquarian. We're going into the Aquarian age, and the people in that who are going to make the most impact in that age, they have different values.
Totally agree with you. Yes. Yeah. I think, well, I'm not younger generation, although I look a little bit young, but anyway, but I agree that no matter what generation, I think most of the people, we want a peace. And then, but you know, but also we should understand how they're suffering, and you know, there's a suffering there. That's why, you know, that there's a reason why there. But of course, like we say, it's not the reason for them to do something to hurt innocent people, and that's what we have to state it. I remember when I checked that chart. I remember one day, I think it was when things just happened. I had a weekly chat with Lianne together, right? I remember that was the week we have a chat, and I noticed that we mentioned about, I think Robyn also mentioned about Jupiter Uranus, because I remember that event, the Hamas attack event. There's I think Isla Chiron or something was located in one chart Uranus, and another in Israel Uranus, and in Hamas chart Jupiter or something. So in one side is Uranus, and in another side is Jupiter. And both planets, to be honest, both planets have a little bit let it go, you know, release or cut off, totally look at the future. So I think that I don't know how long it would take for them to focus on the future rather than.
I think the other problem is that a lot of countries now have applied to join BRICS. I think 74 countries now have applied to join BRICS.
You are Fernando's new friend.
that means, of course, that the US dollar will no longer control trade. So therefore, the US will no longer control the world, and they're losing power. And I feel that at the moment it suits them to have as much conflict in the world as possible, because that's their way of actually making money and still showing that they have some sort of power and control. But I think that if you watch on YouTube, you watch the new speaker, Mike Johnson. I watched 5 hours of him in the background, speaking the other day. And oh my God, what he's got to say about the Democrats and the Biden family, and what he calls them, the Biden crime family. And I have no doubt that Biden will be impeached long before he has a chance to stand for the next presidency.
That is a very interesting.
So I think a lot of this, what's going on at the minute, is related to his power, or his power group around him, trying to detract from the situation of their financial situation, which is really, really dire. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to have a big problem with the stock market.
Oh, definitely. With that Mars opposite Uranus, usually Christine Skinner say you can expect when Mars opposite Uranus, you can expect they push the market up, and then
and the crypto's all starting to go up quite quickly now. And I mean, of course, a lot of it will crash, but at the minute is. You know, I mean, you know, if you watch the markets and you read behind them and stop watching the mainstream media, because it's all such a load of baloney. And, you know, at the very least, watch Al Jazeera or watch UK column news, or any of the independent news sources. You're going to get a very different picture from what we're being given from the BBC.
Thank you, Robyn. And I know Anna has some engagement. I know, so we probably have to say goodbye to Anna. Thank you, Anna, for your contribution today. But also, I think
thanks to you.
I think
nice sharing with you. See you next time.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Amazing, it's amazing discussion with everyone, and then
Really
I
good,
really hope to see everyone come back next month. And I think next month, because it's December, so probably we're going to focus on Capricorn in Greece and make some forecasting. You know, that would be, or we can focus on the Portugal election.
Yeah.
If that is interesting.
Who knows what will happen from here with all with this new moon? Who knows what's going to happen?
Anything can happen in the next
I
month.
know. If any crazy one just press that button, then you know, but we will just like send later to each other.
But yeah, great conversation. Really good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to everybody.
Watching us.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.